Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Be the Bank broadcast. I am Justin Bogard, your host. And today we're going to have Dan Deppen and Jamie Bateman on the show today. And as usual, we'll have some charismatic conversation and definitely be talking about real estate notes. So stay tuned. Hey, gentlemen. Happy Wednesday.
Hello.
Yeah. School started back up for us. So we've been in school for, this is our second week of school.
Oh, wow.
Out here. You guys start
Seems
school where
early.
you're at?
Crazy early, second week.
Yeah. Last week was a half week. This is the first full week. So one full week of school so far.
Okay. No.
Next week I got college move-ins. So that'll be mine.
Yeah.
Where are your kids going to college?
One will be a freshman at Colorado in Boulder, and then the other will be a junior at University of Arizona. So I'll be doing a lot of driving around the desert next week.
Your kid that goes to Arizona, does he already live in Arizona? He or she?
Or her. No, well, I mean, she's back for the summer, but sorry about that. I didn't turn my phone off. But her and her friends are getting an apartment this year. So we got a caravan down because she can't get all the stuff she needs for the apartment in her cars.
So how long of a drive is that?
13 hours from Denver.
Oh, man.
So on Monday, we got to do the dorm move in, and then we'll drive part way down that night. Like we'll leave immediately from that to go south. So next week's a lot of driving around for me. So people can't go to hold of me. That's why.
So you have to get like a trailer behind you to pull all the stuff?
No, it's not that much stuff. We're just basically taking both our cars and caravanning.
Okay.
But I'm going to play golf in Scottsdale on the way back. So there's that.
There you go.
Buddy plays there. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, my daughter's doing the same thing as Dan's older daughter, I presume. She's a sophomore at JMU, and she already got an apartment for this year. So I went down already with her to get the key and help her start moving in. But that's only about little over 3 hours for me, so it's not too bad. But yeah, and she had her car last year, but she didn't really have access to it at school as much as she will this year. So that'll be nice. But then my son starts back up in high school right just before Labor Day. So
when do you guys get out of school, Jamie? What month?
June. Yeah.
Like late June?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we get out right at the end of May, like usually the last week of May.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's in pretty much 11 months out of the year, so it's just a couple of 3-week breaks basically, so which is good for us.
So it's like a balanced schedule.
Do they do like trimesters or something?
No, he goes for summer school too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's in a kind of a special school.
Right on. So what's been happening with you guys this past month? With any weird deals you've been working on?
Nothing too weird. I mean, well, so I got married the other week.
I was going to say,
and now I'm in the midst of moving. That's why it's so sparse in the background. And then I'm getting ready for the college moves. But I have put in offers on 2 loans. In the meantime, I'm just waiting to hear back. And then there's actually another deal I'm helping to broker that has some weird nuances. I don't want to get into it too much because we're still like right in the middle of it, but
yeah,
doing a little bit of things, but yeah, mostly waylaid with life stuff.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah, we just closed on another batch. I feel like I keep saying this, but another batch of 8 loans, mostly seconds, small balance seconds.
Yeah.
Last week. So that was good. But there's all that, it was a lot of due diligence and whatnot. And I've traveled a little bit in the last few weeks. So kind of balancing work and life. But yeah, we also foreclosed on a property last week. And then we've got a couple of REO that we're working through. I spoke with the former borrower who we just foreclosed on today, and I asked him, why'd you wait till after the foreclosure auction to actually, come out of the woodwork, basically? And
yeah,
he said the servicer portal was difficult to manage. So,
those can be tricky. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he fell $15,000 behind, because, it was difficult to make payments.
That's something I've noticed on Call the Underwriter. Occasionally somebody, like a borrower, will claim some technical difficulty submitting data that nobody's ever encountered since literally like 500 people will have done within there. And there's always like credit or income problems behind that.
Right.
Like 100% of the time. Like it can.
Right.
Yeah.
In the same breath, he was like, I mean, there's really no excuse. I'm like, at least communicate. I mean, if you can afford the payment or not, that's, he went dark in February and then was 15 grand behind and we foreclosed. So, I mean, I did tell him I'm open to, we got to start from scratch. I'm open to possibly reselling the property to him, but he would have to requalify and all that. So, I mean, obviously from our perspective, if he does qualify, I mean, unfortunately, on one hand, I've got a checkered pay history from him. On the other hand, he's in the house, and that would be a lot cheaper than, having to, move him out and find an agent. I have an agent, but use an agent to sell it and all that stuff. So I'm willing to work with him, but you've got to communicate. And that comment today didn't help his case, his cause.
No, that's a red flag. Plus, compliance is a rough one. If you literally just got foreclosed on the same house, like it would be hard to tell the story of like.
That's a
unless the guy's just got like lots of income and
right.
whatever. But it's like, but the problem is like, especially if you collect a down payment, if you end up foreclosing them out again.
Mm-hmm.
You could claim it was predatory. Well, I'm just a moron. And this guy kept taking down payments and
right.
It's true.
That's a good point. So I did connect him with my agent. They're supposed to, at least next step would be to get the agent inside to take pictures and assess the property value and whatnot, and then give him a deadline to move out. So, yeah. So, and then we've got another REO that we're just waiting. We've took it back, but the court has to sign off on it. So we're waiting for that to materialize where we're legally allowed to access the property in a few weeks here. So working through several REOs. And yeah, otherwise I think our fund is up to about 54 assets at this point.
Nice.
Continue to buy and then just work out the NPLs and, distressed assets. So slowly growing the fund, looking for additional capital, but that all keeps me busy for sure.
Nice. I told you guys offline, but I'll say it publicly. A couple REOs that I have, I decided to do some rehab work to them. So I got a duplex in Indianapolis that we just finished the work that I think we should have put into it. And so we finally got it listed for sale as of yesterday, I think. So hopefully we'll get that thing moving. And then we got one in North Carolina that we didn't do any rehab work for at least 5 months. And then we finally figured out, I finally figured out I should have just done rehab from the beginning, save myself the trouble, because the price band on this house is probably anywhere from, 110 to 140 when it's fixed up. So most people that want to buy something that's not fixed up, they really don't have the funds to, put into that property to fix it up the way they want. So we just went ahead and did it, just the cosmetic stuff, paint walls and ceilings and new flooring, new kitchen cabinets, countertops, replace the interior light fixtures so they all match and they look, kind of new, replace the exterior doors. And then we have to do a landscaping swale drain in the backyard. So all the water that rushes off the hill that's in the back of this wooded area, it kind of goes around the property as opposed to right into the back of it. Because it was causing the AC condenser unit in the back to get filled with mud. So it's got, it's caked with mud right now. So I'm sure if somebody turned it on, it probably wouldn't run. Mm-hmm. So we're getting all that taken care of. So hopefully after that, we'll be able to list that for sale in the next month and get that going. It was
I'm jealous of all the REOs you guys have. All of mine that have been in legal have just been like a hamster wheel. Where they just delay. I keep paying legal bills. Time goes by.
Yeah. I have those too. That's, I think I've got 3 REOs right now, but several that I would have predicted would be an REO already, but they're not yet. So yeah, it's amazing how, even after being in this business for years, it's like, I'm still surprised at how slow this process can be as far as foreclosure and expensive, how expensive it can be. But yeah, when you guys were talking, it was, everything we've just talked about so far is real estate investing, really. So,
yeah.
It's funny how it's like people say, are you is mortgage note investing within real estate investing? I'm like, it really is, it's obviously the finance angle as well. And obviously Dan is called the underwriter, more on the underwriting / finance side of things. But it certainly helps to understand real estate and real estate values and rehabs and things like that. But yeah, I'm finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, like you're alluding to, Dan, on some of these. They look good on paper as far as the exit. When a property goes to foreclosure, we look at 3 main metrics. One is our all-in, how much money we have into this deal thus far, the total payoff, total legal balance, and third is the property value. And those are we look at other things, but those are the 3 primary factors that I'm looking at when I go to place my foreclosure bid, and just kind of strategize about what exit we want. So we don't typically do a lot of rehab work, but I'll do just enough to clean it up and list the property for sale. And now with Dan, with Call the Underwriter, I'm more comfortable doing seller financing as an option too. And that's one of the things I really like about this business is just, you've got options, so the deal may not go how you think it's going to go, but as long as you purchased it well and managed it well, you usually have options. So
yeah, I feel like you just got to be able to wear a lot of hats. It's not like a thing.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, it can be a passive business, but it can also be a very active business quickly on a passive investment.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's funny how there's like a truly performing note can be like pretty passive. Mm-hmm. And then there's conventional real estate that's like whatever amount of work that is. But then like some of the non-performers are like way more work than other kinds of deals.
Yeah, I had a performing loan for probably 6 years that guy eventually filed for bankruptcy. Payments were being made. It was performing in bankruptcy. Then the borrower passed away last fall. And then so we had to file a motion for relief. We foreclosed, but his spouse was in the property. And, it went through cash for keys and had the eviction paperwork filed and all that stuff. I spoke with her today. I've gotten a couple offers on that property. So, that was a performing loan for, 6 years and was super passive for a while. And then it's involved, almost every different type of nuance that can come up with these. So you just got to be, that's why for due diligence, our pricing obviously is different if you compare a non-performer to performing loan, but from a due diligence standpoint, they're really not much. The process is basically the same. We just assume all performers will go non-performing.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking that to be a real estate investor, you don't have to know how to be a note investor, but to be a note investor, you have to know how to be a real estate investor.
Yeah. You don't have to, but you should.
Well, yeah, you'd be pretty silly if you didn't.
Yeah.
If you want to be a true active note investor, you really have to be a real estate investor too.
Right.
Because at any point in time, you have to put on that hat, so to speak, and be able to function. But like to your point, what you said before, Jamie, you just have a ton of options when you're the bank. And
right.
in any of these situations we're in, yeah, it may sound daunting. It's not that daunting. It's just, it's paperwork, it's managing vendors, it's understanding the protocol or the rules and regulations that you need to follow.
Yeah.
And it's just how you play the game. As long as you know the rules, you can play the game and you can still make money in this business. Sometimes it takes longer than others. Like when we have these REOs that we have to foreclose on, it may take a couple months to a year, or maybe sometimes longer than a year. But at some point you get the chance to start making money again. And since we've been doing this long enough, we know how to either, sell it for as is, clean it up, or put money into it and sell it on owner financing. So it's just kind of neat how you just, when you get in the deal, when you're experienced, you're really comfortable. Like, okay, I can exit this way because I've seen this happen before.
Right. Yeah. I don't try to predict exactly how it's going to go, but I'm comfortable. I mean, if I don't know the answer, I can find it out. Right. So,
and
I'm
like not afraid to put money back into a property either. If I know I'm going to get something more than my money back, as an add-on to it, but I won't overdo the property,
Yeah. Like you alluded to, nothing's typically on fire, so in this business, as you scale, you definitely need to be organized and have systems and have attention to detail, but typically it's not like, it usually can wait a day, and you can figure it out and, make decisions along the way. And people have come before us and done well. So I know somebody knows the answer if I don't have it. So.
Well, that's a good point. What you just said, maybe we can talk about that. Because when I was younger in my career in the note business, I would act too fast to make a decision, as opposed to stepping back and looking at it from different angles now, and then getting resources before I make a decision. Because you're right, Jamie, you don't have to make the decision within that hour.
Right.
I can't imagine a scenario where you would have to do that unless you're just procrastinating. But essentially you have a few days to kind of figure out and just kind of get your emotions out of the way and make a logical decision on what's the best path forward.
Right. And I do a little bit of mentorship still. And I had a call with somebody the other day who is interested in a mentorship program. And the reason I bring that up is he was sharing with me some of the challenges he's faced in owning notes. He already owns some notes, but it was very, he was taking everything personally, and it was very,
oh God, yeah, you can't.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, no, I mean, you just can't. So not saying I never get upset or never have emotions or anything, but I mean, really, I told him, look, if a loan is 60 days delinquent, what we do is we tell our servicer they can accept payments, but they can't apply the payments to the loan. Once it hits 90 days, we send a demand letter, almost always through an attorney. And it's not about, there's nothing personal about it.
Yeah.
So just following the process. So,
and you have to remember, like the borrower signed a contract, when they agree to this, whether they had, we would say like, not intimate knowledge, but like, if they really were cognitive on what they were signing, like hopefully they should know better, unless they were swindled by the original lender, which we hope that wasn't the case.
A vision swindle. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they signed a contract. So like you, Jamie, like we just have to stay disciplined, as much as you can't, you can't unhear the sad stories, and you feel for them sometimes going through the situation, and you can be, malleable with your decision on what you want to do. But, time and time again, if you keep doing that, you're going to get stretched to where, it's affecting your bottom line, and who probably have investors, and so it's affecting their bottom
line.
So.
That's exactly what you just said. Is it's actually helped bringing on investors, more and more investors has helped me be more objective about it and, detached as far as, I think I would be, not that I want to lose my own capital, but, I may be a little more forgiving if it's my money and having to foreclose or something like that. So I do have my own money in the fund, but, it's like I have to, protect my investor capital first. So that's literally the bottom line.
I mean, the way I view it is if somebody's got like a legit hardship and they communicate and it's like your standard, like recoverable medical bills, job loss, divorce, and they're talking, like we've always got range to work something out. Like that's not a problem. But if they don't communicate well, or they want to talk about tangents or things that don't matter, it gets convoluted, or the old lender told me this, it's like, then I can only do so much. Like I can't help with that. And I don't.
Yeah. You don't have the truth serum to get out of them, to a certain point. So you don't really know what's the truth. So you just be like, here's your options. Here's what I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you brought up systems earlier, Jamie. I think it's a good time to bring that up. I feel like things have changed dramatically, probably the last 2.5 years, with really having a good understanding of how, you, Jamie, or you, Dan, need to work within your local ecosphere of like different programs and stuff. So one of the things that I've tried to do is I've always tried to be as lean as I can with programs, because I get so distracted with so many different programs to have to use for different reasons that I always try to like bring it back in. And if I can get rid of 2 programs, I'll only add 1, or, vice versa. So I've been hyper-focused the last probably 1.5 years specifically to kind of narrow things down. So I just have like a CRM through Go High Level. I have an inventory system that's through Podio. I think Podio used to be a CRM, but I kind of use it as an inventory management system. And then we have what's the other thing we have? I already forgot. Oh, we use the Microsoft suite, obviously, for those types of tools and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of like the 3 main things that I use. And luckily, there's AI connectors that can kind of help you bridge things, manually or automatically through like an API to help kind of make them all talk to each other. So are you guys doing the same thing?
Yeah, I'm starting to like I think I was mentioning a little bit before this, but yeah, I'm using Claude. Well, I'm using actually both ChatGPT and Claude, but using ChatGPT to connect to, email accounts, CRM, Dropbox, Google Drive, QuickBooks Online, all kinds of stuff. And it's kind of cool when it can actually search your emails and files and stuff. And then for certain projects, like I have spreadsheet trackers in Google Drive, and I have like instructions where it'll reference those as well. So it's kind of cool. Like sometimes I'll get it kind of a random email question, like, what is this? And whereas in the past, I might've had to go on an Easter egg hunt to find it, like this will just find like all the data and kind of give me the answer of where it is. So I'm only like in the baby stages, I would say, of like truly leveraging that capability, but it's already been a pretty significant time saver.
I've been trying to be careful of how much I let the AI get access to in certain areas. So I've kind of like have a vault, I guess, if you will, of a file folder system that the AI can only access. So I can only dump things in that area to kind of segregate that. Because I feel like, as I'm sure Jamie's the same way. As a fund manager, you kind of want to make sure your investors and your borrowers' information is as secure as you can get it, to where no one can get access to it unless you authorize it.
Yeah, I've almost gone the opposite approach. I'm trying to give it access to more so it can search it all and make my life easier.
Well, I think it's one thing if it has read access, but obviously you don't want to give it write access to the wrong areas.
I have experimented with write access. Mine actually has write access to CRM. Okay. And the first couple experiments actually worked, but yeah, you can actually use it like to update statuses and a CRM and stuff. It's a little that's a little hairy. The Google Drive connector, at least for I think ChatGPT and Claude, is kind of read only. And it's very like limited to metadata. So like what I do with like my trackers that I have for projects, it has the link to the tracker, and then I'll say, make these changes to it. It'll produce a new version, and then I can replace the file in Google Drive. And so then all the links stay preserved. Like you open the spreadsheet and you go replace with this, and then
that's cool.
Goes. So there's kind of like a manual intervention. Like I can look at what it did, so it doesn't just like start deleting tabs and then I don't realize they got deleted because they're not there.
I was telling Jamie this, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago. We were talking offline about AI stuff, and I was having chat help me figure out how to make the connectors in between the software. So AI is not involved in the, I guess you want to call it the communication between the software, but one of the softwares I can trigger something to have it do something, and it looks for a script that it's already wrote in, I think we're using Azure. And so the script will like go find my servicer portal, and it'll grab whatever servicer notes or payments that happened the day before, and then kind of make a log in my inventory software and then match it to the loan that it's there. So instead of me having to go log into the servicing portal and find the loan and look and read their information, it's just pulling it for me and just, allowing me to see that like on a daily remittance or a daily like servicer note remittance, I guess you want to call it. But we're doing that too, to where it'll push and pull stuff to our CRM as well. But the AI kind of builds the code for it, but the codes are all controlled like in its own environment, and it's only like by a push of a button or a sequence of events that it'll actually do those triggers.
You were also
I was listening to I think it was somebody on YouTube the other week, and they were saying like, AI will do a lot of work for you, kind of like an employee. So it's like, treat it like a new employee. You wouldn't bring in a brand new employee, give them access to absolutely everything, and then just tell them to let it rip, right? Like you would never do that. You would kind of ease it in. It's like, so take
make me money
the same way. Yeah.
Right. Double profits now.
Yeah.
It's quick. Yeah.
You were also, Justin, I mean, we use similar systems that you do, like you already mentioned, but you're also doing some cool things with like creating templates quickly as well. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I made like my own little document automation request kind of app, I guess you want to call it. It was in the Podio software. So yeah, that's pretty cool, to where I already had like, I used to use Word documents, and I would mail merge Excel files with the data into the Word documents, right? So that's how I would create all my PDFs for closing statements, letters of intent, NDAs, all the things we do, right? So since it was so, I guess, arduous, I think is the word I want to use, to load that data into Excel from the software where it's already, housed at, I finally took the time to say, okay, the information is already here in Podio. Grab it from these areas. Here's the Word template basically, and here's the placeholder of where you put that information. And so now it's all organized to where I can tell it like, this is the seller is Jamie Bateman, the buyer is Dan Deppen, and whatever key elements it needs to know. And here's the loan that they're trading, and then it'll automatically pull what it needs to, and you can click which documents you want it to tether with. So I have like, an affidavit of seller or a pay history cert, or, whatever else you need to add to like a mortgage sale agreement, or if it's a partial or something. But yeah, we organized it, and it took quite a while. I want to say I probably put like 60 or 70 coding hours into it to get it all finally done. But it was worth it, because now I can just snap out closing documents. Like,
is it like a super smart mail merge? Like I've used some Google extensions over the years to create docs for my hypothecated loan agreements and other stuff. And it's a little similar. Like basically you enter the data for the deal in a spreadsheet, and then, you kind of say go, and then it references a template and it plops everything in. But it's a little bit hard coded. I feel like with AI, you could probably even be like a little smarter and general purpose.
Yeah, so that's how I used to do it with the mail merge. But now the data is already there in Podio. So instead of me having to go look for it and type it into Excel or whatever, it's already there because I've already done it when I bought the loan. And so it just pulls it when it's ready. So it's just an enhanced version of what I was doing before. And it's way less keystrokes and way less potential for error for me to make a mistake.
The other thing that I've been doing for bookkeeping, because I still do my own bookkeeping for various reasons, but I've got a project where I've got various like spreadsheets and loan servicer data connected, and then hypothecated loan data connected. And so what I can do is like download deposits in QuickBooks Online and just take a screen capture and paste it in, and it'll find it and give me the breakout. It's this loan, this much to principal, this much to interest. And then I do the same thing on the reverse when I'm paying investors on hypothecated loans.
Yeah.
I've got like that data attached to it. So, I have automatic ACHs set up. And so I'll just take like a screen grab of the transactions, and then it finds them all. So I've also got like the amortization tables in there, and it just tells me. And so that's
nice.
Sped up a bunch. Now I just got to like automate it more, and then I'll have something. So
your bookkeeping software is QuickBooks Online?
Yeah, I transitioned to that 6-9 months ago, something like that. Because I had always done desktop because I was told I needed the classes, but I found that I kind of don't. And I really like the QuickBooks Online. Now that I've got everything on there, it's actually like vastly easier to
way easier.
And you can connect it like to the AI tools.
Yeah.
Well, so I can pull data out of there. So I've only really scratched the surface on that so far.
We use QuickBooks Online as well. I don't know how many years I've been doing it. I want to say 5 or 6 years, but it's way better than the desktop version. I agree with that. But we need to use the classes to break down our loans. And then I ran into what I thought was a problem where it would only give you, like, we have I think the advanced or the plus version. It just only gave us 40 classes within a company file to use up. And so once
the online version you're talking about.
Yeah. So
I looked at that too. And then when you need more than that, it costs like $1 bajillion.
See, you don't have to. You just inactivate them. You inactivate.
Well, I didn't even do that. I just stopped using classes. So what I'm doing is I've got all my accounts. They're ultimately like connected, right? Like there's, for a given note, I'll have a QuickBooks account for the note itself. I'll have a QuickBooks account for expenses, maybe associated investor things and things like that. But I kind of tie them together outside of that in spreadsheets, and then I can use AI to like do the math behind like how is this one loan doing rather than try to do it in QuickBooks.
Yeah, we just start inactivating classes if we get too high, because they're probably loans that we sold anyways that we really don't need to track like as reporting, because they're still all the data's there. It's just if it's inactive, it gives you back a class. So we've been skirting around with that. But we'll run cash flow statements based on class, so I'll know to the penny what I have in the deal, and so all the reporting is just right there. Even a hypothecation is also, tethered to the class as well, so it'll pull up the liability and show me what my bottom line is.
Yeah, I just found myself not really running those reports a whole lot when I had the ability to in desktop. So,
well, there's so many cool features and stuff in that I get a report every Sunday of all the loans of the status of their cash flow, so I can see where we're at on deals, especially like Jamie, when you have multiple REOs at once, you want to see what you have in the deal.
Yeah, for sure.
As soon as, as often as possible.
Yeah, I look at that more at like an aggregate level. So I kind of roll up, all of them. So for like all my notes, what do I have in them? What do I owe investors? If I owe investors more than what I have in them, I call that excess cash. It's just a made up term I made up. So like, what should I have in the bank to cover everything? What do I actually have in the bank? And then, so I track that like fanatically. So
that's like in a separate spreadsheet off the QuickBooks thing.
Yeah. So, but basically, I can pretty easily pull the data out of QuickBooks, and then that thing updates. So I just export it. What I do is and this is another thing I can make less brittle, but basically I've got a spreadsheet with the account names and a bunch of VLOOKUPs. And then I export a chart of accounts from QuickBooks Online and just paste it in when I want to do an update, and then everything updates along the way. So,
well, that's cool.
yeah.
Are you using QuickBooks, Jamie?
Yeah, we use QuickBooks Online. It's probably switched around the same time as you did, maybe a little bit after. I'm not sure, but I use a third-party bookkeeping service, Haven. So I get a monthly report for each entity, and then for the fund entity, I get a per asset breakdown of everything. So it's a little more expensive.
Do audited financials for your fund, or is that not required based on how
it's not required? And I mean, it's onerous from I know Chris spends a lot of money and time doing his audited financials, which are required for a Regulation A fund. But and some people like that some investors want to see audited financials, but the reality is it hurts the overall return of the fund. So my fund it's not necessary, and it's not required, and it would really, I've done that before. I've dealt with that before with the servicing company years ago, but not for my fund. So tried to create my fund to keep it as simple as possible. Really monthly payments, pretty straightforward, at least from the investor standpoint. There's still a lot of back end work like we're talking about, but from the investor standpoint, and just the we've got two tiers, two classes in the fund, and I think we're pretty transparent. We send a monthly update to our investors that and they have access to a lot of information, but no audited financials. But I was curious if you guys, this is changing topics, it just kind of popped into my head, but this slow flip regulation, have you guys followed that?
I've been digging into that. Yeah.
Okay. Because I haven't, so I'm curious.
I know a decent bit about that. So my understanding of what the slow flip method is, and granted, I never read the Jelinek book. This is just from me talking to investors who say this is what we're doing. All right. So some of this might be off like the official method or what those people in St. Louis were doing.
Yeah.
But basically what, some people who say they're using that method will do, they'll go out and buy a property off the MLS, like sight unseen, in some really low cost areas. So they'll go out and buy a property for like $30,000, $40,000. And then they'll look at the rental rates in the area, and they'll back into a price based on rental rates. And so they'll buy a property for like $40,000 and maybe they sell it for $80,000. And the argument to the buyer is, we're giving you an opportunity for home ownership that you can't get elsewhere. Because you can either rent, you'll be renting at this price anyways. You can't buy the $30,000, $40,000 house outright, because if you're buying that kind of house, you probably don't have that much cash, and nobody's going to lend to you for that small amount anyway. But the big problem is they do not do all the compliance stuff around origination. They just skip it. And a lot of times people will just do like some checks on income and go, well, if this person makes enough income to make the payment, I'm good. And they kind of skip like all the rest of it. And it works, like people do it. I'm not a huge fan of the thing. And, I suppose if your buyer was going in like eyes wide open and you had everything like fully disclosed, like probably ways you could do that ethically. But, I think skipping all the compliance stuff when you're originating an owner occupied loan is pretty bananas. And
so they're selling on seller financing, correct?
Yeah, they're selling on seller
not-
finance,
not
typically
CFD.
creating land contracts.
Okay, gotcha.
And not, so like they stay on title, and a lot of the theory too is like if the borrower defaults, it'll be easy to rinse them out and repeat,
Right.
which, as we were talking about earlier, isn't always the case. But
Right.
and in general, like I would say, if you're a lender, which you are a lender when you're doing seller finance, that's another thing I've learned. A lot of people don't think they're a lender when they sell on owner finance.
Mm-hmm.
They totally are. But as a lender, like if you're making a loan to somebody, it's their primary residence, and your attitude is, I'll get a down payment. If they don't pay, I'll just rinse them out and repeat. Like all the consumer laws are designed like precisely to prevent people from doing that. So like if that's your mindset, like you're treading into rough waters, like right away. So, but what happened in St. Louis was there was this company, Bustling LLC. And I guess it was owned by a guy who had like from Virginia, I think, who had like been to jail for something else, kind of a sketch character from what it sounded like. The city didn't like what they were doing, but what's interesting was they didn't go after them for violating all the lending laws. They went after them for not getting like occupancy permits. So it sounds like what they were doing was similar to like what Vision Property Management was doing in Harbor Portfolio to an extent where, if you buy a 40K property sight unseen, it's probably pretty jacked up, right? So, you have borrowers getting in houses and, the roof leaks or the furnace is blown and, they're a first time homeowner. They don't know what they're doing. And so they just fail. And I took it upon myself to do a little research on the company. And in St. Louis, that LLC had processed over 100 evictions. Wow. So what I'm guessing happened was the city saw this company like doing 100 evictions. They're like, what the hell is this?
Right.
Yeah.
Went after them. But then I did hear something recently where the state attorney general talked about it and was not happy. So right now it's like the occupancy permit thing with the city, but I'm sure the actual like violating the lending laws, attorney general stuff has got to be coming.
Yeah.
And that's going to be worse.
So they're going after that company. The city's going after that company, like legally for it, or is that what's happening?
Yeah, I think did they file a lawsuit? I forget what the actual action was that they took, but the city went after them for like putting people in homes without like some kind of occupancy.
Right. Got it.
Permit. But again, like that was that's another interesting thing when it comes to compliance, because some people are worried about like, what's the rule? Can I do this? Can I do that?
Right.
If you're perceived as a predatory lender, like then they're going to get you.
Yep.
Right.
If you're not doing anything predatory, like I know people who are, not necessarily following every rule, like they're technically like breaking some rules, but they're actually like doing right by people and doing all the right stuff. Those people never have a problem.
Right.
So like the letter of the law, like, and if you look at the way all those compliance and like lending laws are written, they're very gray. They're like intentionally gray. Like Dodd-Frank doesn't give like hard limits on credit and debt to income. It's like up to the lender to determine. And at first I really hated that, but actually like it kind of makes sense. I feel like it's well written because there's like all this discretion. So, but I haven't seen any cases where lenders were not doing predatory things and got in trouble because there was some gray zone and they came after them. Like anytime I see them go after a lender, like, there's always stuff that's like black and white, like not good.
Right.
So the system actually kind of works. It's just hard to explain to people.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen that a bunch on social media. I just didn't take the time to dive into it. So
I'm surprised that hasn't blown up sooner, honestly. Yeah. But I think you just had one actor doing it like at scale in one city.
Right.
And but now that's gonna I bet you that's gonna expand. The other thing that's kind of funny is the guy who came up with that did a really good job of like branding his method. And actually, like in the last year, I'd say it's really like increased in popularity. There's a lot of people like, oh, the slow flip, that's cool. Like, oh, I want to do the slow flip.
Sure.
But now that it's gone this way, the branding's actually going to work against them. Now it's like,
right.
negative.
Yeah, I would guess they went with that occupancy, route, because that's what the city has immediate purview over. Obviously there are state level lending compliance laws, but a lot of them are, national, like Dodd-Frank, right? So it's hard for a city to enforce those types of regulations, right? So
and without knowing the details, like I'm willing to bet they put people in houses where people got in and like it gets winter, oh shit, the furnace doesn't work, or now the roof. I bet you there was that kind of stuff going on as well. So they probably talked to borrowers who they were evicting who were like, well, I bought this house and then the roof leaked and I couldn't do this, and
right.
And then the city was like, okay, we can't, this can't go on here.
Yeah.
Well, there's funds that used to do that when we had the Great Recession. They were buying those properties so cheap and they wouldn't really put money into it. They'd take borrowers with like $500 down.
Yeah,
and
the borrower was responsible for
they'd have to fix, everything for it. But they did all the legal compliant paperwork, but they just sold them a dream that was unfulfillable. So they pretty much
still went after those people anyways, right?
Well, it took years and years and years and years and years.
It did, but they kind of got them.
They divested themselves of their portfolio years before any attorney generals caught wind of what was happening. I mean, they did this to like 5,000-6,000 properties across the country.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like when I get REOs, I try to sell them on owner finance if I can, but a lot of times the ones I get are just beat down and really messed up. Mm-hmm. And you just can't put a consumer in there unless they happen to be like a contractor or a handyman. So like I've sold a lot of REOs to just local cash buyers who are going to fix and flip them.
Right.
Which stinks because, now I'm basically selling at a discount instead of doing owner finance where I can sell at a premium and create a new note. But, some properties you just can't put a consumer in there. Like I did one earlier this year where the house, it wasn't like jacked. It wasn't like the house had like foundation or roof issues or furnace, but it definitely needed some love. Mm-hmm. But the guy that bought it was like a handyman guy, and we discussed it, and like he went in completely eyes wide open,
right,
about what he was going to do with the property. Like if both parties like fully understand, what they're getting into and have the capability to do it, then that can be okay. But the problem is a lot of these people just like find borrowers who don't know what they're doing, and they throw them in, and then they're like,
taking advantage of people. I mean,
they set them up for failure. We're the same way, Dan. I'm sure Jamie is too. Like that's why I rehabbed a couple of these houses, because it's like I can't in good conscience sell a house that's not safe for someone that's going to buy it that really doesn't have the means or the ability to know like how to correct this mistake. So
and that's why for me, like my track record on trying to rehab stuff at a distance is pretty poor. So that's why a lot of times I'm like, I'm just going to have to take the cash buyer, because it's just going to be like, probably better than trying to rehab myself out of it.
That's a real problem for lenders too, from a distance. So if you don't know somebody like another friend that that's trusted in that area, you can't really trust the contractors unless you've actually used them before.
Well, that was like several years ago when I had two of them in Muncie, Indiana, where I completely hate the town. I swear to God, there's not like one person in Muncie that's not a crook.
Yeah, I could have told you that.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm the same way. I've done really only one truly successful long distance rehab, which is still a rental in my portfolio, but it's just not something. We'll do a trash out. We'll cut the grass. We'll do maybe a little bit of paint or something, but we're not.
Yeah, I'll just do minor stuff if it's easy and I know it's going to pay back.
Yeah,
but I won't get into anything significant unless like, if there was a corner case where like one of you guys were like, oh, I've done like Jay was like, hey, I've got these people. I've done a boatload of rehabs in Fort Wayne. They're really good. Like If there's something with some specific connection, maybe, but without that, forget it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Paint, flooring, cabinets, that stuff's pretty minor
Justin,
for anyone to do.
You were a flipper, weren't you, before?
Me?
Yeah, rehabber.
Yeah, I tried, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you have experience with it. I mean,
yeah, I'm confident if I'm doing a project I'm pretty confident.
I've rehabbed some local rentals and one long distance rental that I wouldn't consider myself a rehabber, so and those things change too. The people change, a good real estate agent this year might be gone next year. And like you said, the contractors, and it's too many variables. So that's not
I would prefer not to rehab a property, but I also will if I know that there can be a return. Like I told you that one in North Carolina, like the paint, the flooring, like we did a lot of work, but it wasn't major rehab. It's just hardcore cosmetic stuff. I mean, anybody can change a light fixture, paint flooring. Like that's not difficult to find just a generic contractor for that. So.
Right. Yeah. And I suppose it's a little bit easier now with technology and whatnot, but I'd rather not get into that because I know it just drags things on and on and on. So, given the two options, I'd much rather just sell to a rehabber, than me trying to pretend I'm a rehabber, out of state rehabber. So that's why I think the hard money, even debt funds, hard money loan funds can be challenging to scale nationally.
Oh yeah.
How do you have all of the oversight and those connections in all those different markets? And it's tough. So, when investors look at funds, a lot of investors want to see, geographic diversification. And I think that's tough if you're looking at a traditional debt fund, hard money loan fund. There are some out there for sure that do well, but I just think the types of, being a mortgage note fund makes that geographic diversification a little bit easier. So
you're exactly right. I would have never thought about the saturation problem until I ran into a situation where the saturation was the problem.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because with the hard money loans that you and I bought,
right?
That lender was obviously heavily concentrated in one area.
Yeah, which makes
concentrated
sense.
with one borrower, which was a problem
that was a problem. But I also know of other funds that are trying to spread themselves out geographically, and it's tough if you're a hard money lending fund.
Yeah.
So
you have to go to markets that you have boots on the ground.
Right.
Or I've been there before. So
yeah, I mean, I think right now we own notes in about 20 states or something, but we've purchased in maybe 30. So
yeah.
I like that aspect of buying originated, owner occupied, consumer loans.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I'd take those all day long.
Yep.
Right on. Well, I think that's a good time to end for today's episode here. So thanks, gentlemen, for staying on the call today, being on the call as always. And see, next time will be September. I don't even know what the date will be.
It's almost football season. I know that.
Yeah. We'll have maybe some college games already played by then, right?
I think probably, yeah.
All right. Until next time, guys, we'll see you.
All right.
All right. Take care.